Welcome. Thanks for joining us, everyone. Great to see you again. And we have a special session for you today. So welcome to Ellie and to Jonas, and a special welcome to Lionel. Hi there.
Hello.
Hi, everyone.
Hiya. Now, you may have seen the fact that we did a holiday message just to say thank you for being part of the Maxon community. And we wanted to do this in a slightly different way. And so you may have seen this already. If you go to the Maxon site and you go up to the events page, you can see the video. But you can also see it if you go to the Maxon YouTube channel. And here it is in the background. I'm going to play it. I'm going to risk playing it back. Here we go in the browser. It may be dropping frames through the webinar software, so we can also share that link. But you can go to YouTube and watch it now. But essentially, what we're going to talk about today is the artistic process that Lionel took to actually, and the journey to create these amazing visuals. So we'll talk more about that in a second. And hello to Anders and to Bernd, also welcome. Thank you for joining us again. This is great. Hello from snowy Minneapolis, from Scott. Hi, Grace. Thanks for joining us. And just if you're wondering, here we go. If we're going to record this, yes, we are recording it. And as usual, you can check out the recordings on the Maxon training team session. And don't forget, by the way, that if you do go to the events page next Monday, well, actually tomorrow we have the last VFX and chill of the year. So please join us for that. This is the season finale, and Hashi and Seth have got some interesting things planned for it. And also on Monday, we have our last demystifying session of the year, where Ellie and Chad and Dustin take us through that final stage of building a crazy scene that started out with just a simple gingerbread asset from the R25 asset browser and has turned into something much crazier, shall we say. So Chad's going to be working with some Red Giant tools to add some animation to the scene that Ellie made, and then Dustin comped in with his digital photography. So please join us for that as well. And we have more coming next year. You've probably seen on the page, we're going to investigate Cinema 4D Lite and workflows with that. So there's more coming from us all next year. This isn't the end. So great. So let's just jump back to this greeting. By the way, if you wanted to have a look at this greeting, you can actually just click on the event here, and there's a link to watch the holiday message. I'll just play it in the background because I wanted to just ask Lionel about your experience, Lionel, with this whole project. And maybe to set the scene, I should say what the brief was. And the brief was that we had recorded a message internally that wanted to say thank you, and thank you to the community for being on this journey with us year. And it hasn't been entirely easy because of all these circumstances that we're all in, and for a second year. But as well as that, we want to say a general thank you for the collaboration we've done together, especially on shows like this. So we gave Lionel this brief and the voices, and in some cases the recordings were acceptable audio-wise, some they were less so. So we're trying to not be the worst client ever with this. So it's jumping over to the other side of the fence. Hey, make that logo bigger. I think you said we were going to expect we were going to say that. But how was your feeling with this? How did you approach this when we originally were talking about it?
Well, at first I was really scared because it's a big project. I mean, the last year it was Chan Erduman who did the Artista, which was just amazing. I mean, it's a whole short film. So I was afraid you would ask something like that because I know how to do character animation, but not on that level. So yeah, you rationed me to saying we wanted something more motion design, more editing piece. So I had this idea of a collage of showing a whole lot different stuff, techniques and looks. And to showcase the message. And yes, it was nice idea to have a multiple voice to tell the story. In the voices, you can recognize you, of course, Ellie. You have Jonas also, and also Chad, I think, and David McGraven, our CEO, and many other people actually. It was very nice for me to hear them all and to hear the whole bit. The whole recording for each one. Yes, and there was some very bad audio, and we had someone at Maxon and who could clean a little bit the sound, because I'm no sound engineer.
Yeah, Karam did an amazing job at cleaning that up and doing some post-production on it.
Thanks to him. And so yeah, because it was a big project, I mean, almost 50 seconds of animation and so on, and I didn't really have the time to do everything on my own. I hired two friends of mine from Motion Café, which is a website I manage with some friends. It's a French motion design community. And those two, Mathieu, they are all, they both named Mathieu, which is not very practical when you're working. So they have nicknames, and those two Mathieu made an amazing job on this. And the sequence we're going to show you today is from one of them, because I actually did my bit also, and also I made most of the rendering of the sequence. Almost all the final sequence were rendered through me. It's my kind of final touch, but many sequences were from those two people. So I just want to give them credits, because without them there wouldn't be any clip. And yeah,
can I just ask you, Lionel? There's an interesting thing when you're given just some raw text and a general philosophy behind the message. How do you then approach doing the creativity and choosing the designs that are going to be representing each particular aspect?
Well, from the very beginning, I had this idea of a montage of something very a clip, a motion design clip with a lot of short except because it's dynamic. I mean, it's going to add rhythm to everything, and it was well, it would just go very well with the different voices. And also because there was an opportunity to make several tutorials out of it, because all the sequences are quite simple actually, really. Most of them can be done in less than half an hour or 1 hour. Of course, we didn't take 1 hour for each sequence. It was much longer because there were some iterations, some ideas, and so on. But yeah, the idea was to have something very, very different for all taste. And yeah, we did try to have the overall feeling through colors. We mainly use blue and red and black, which are the Maxon colors. That was difficult because those are opposite color, and black is always difficult to play with. So we added white also, and try to try to find a lot of different ideas. So again, one of the Mathieu Frémaux, was a huge help because he's an art director, and he found a lot of very good ideas, and then we just worked on those ideas. I said, I don't like this one, I'd rather go this way, and so on and so on. And then there was your input, of course. And well, very good input. I was afraid there was too much modification, too much input actually, but you were a very nice client.
I've been on the other end of those conversations many times, so that was ringing in my head. Be a nice client.
Oh yes, because we have all been through bad clients who don't know what they want and so on. So, but it was inside job here. It was for us, so it was, I think, easier to work with because we know each other also. So yeah, it was very nice.
That's great to hear. Phew. You're still speaking to us. That is the result we wanted.
Yeah, that's it.
So you mentioned that you had a couple of sequences you wanted to dive into and just talk about the creation of those.
Mm-hmm.
So Shall I? By the way, everyone, please feel free to jump in with questions about any of these aspects, because we've got, I imagine that will run right up to time, maybe slightly over, because it's sometimes you've got so interesting things to share with you. But if you'd like extra things, or you'd like if anything we don't delve into over the next hour, please let us know, training@maxon.net, and then we can include that as more materials as we go along. But let me send the screen to you, Lionel. Let me make you a presenter. There we go. Great.
So here we are. You see my Premiere Pro project.
Yes.
All right. So yeah. Well, I'm not going to stay too much time on that, but just to show the inner working of the clip. So this is the Premiere Pro project where I only edited the sounds and do some mixing. The final mixing was from well, someone from Maxon, from Karam, and I did some very rough mixing, as you can see here. I mean, with my very low knowledge of sound, I just edited the audio level and so on, and also the music. Yeah, I want to thank the musician I hired for the clip also, who are two very bright young men. They are, I think, they're 21 and 22. So you see, and they did amazing job again on the music. I was very happy with them. So this is the Premiere Pro project. So nothing very interesting. It was only to edit the sound and so on. I'm going to close it because it's eating a lot of memory. And then we have the After Effects project soon, I hope. So let's switch, yeah, to the After Effects project. Oh yeah, as usual.
It wouldn't be a proper demo if you didn't have a crash.
Yeah, it was a crash upon closing, so it's cool. And this is the After Effects project, which as every After Effects project ended like absolute mess with stuff everywhere and so on. I tried to stay organized, but well, I failed. And we have all the sequences. So this is where I put everything together. So we are here on the sequence we're going to show, we're going to see today. So the creativity sequence with the morphing sphere, the heart, and so on. And inside After Effects, well, it's going to be very fast. There's just some editing here. And we're using texturize motion. So I tried also to use as many Red Giant plugin as I could to add texture, motion to everything, transition, and so on. So this is just this, and then this is just the plain sequence. This is the raw render and a few stuff on it, and especially here we can see not this one. It's again a texturized motion with some gradient and so on. Very simple, but it add well texture to the whole thing. And of course the text on top of it, just plain white text are in Rajani, which is the Maxon font also. And that's it. So not much here on the side of plugin. The only one I added was optical glow. So you see there is not even color correction because I did everything that in Redshift and Cinema 4D before.
It's an interesting workflow, isn't it? We often have that debate about how much color correction and how much finishing do you do inside Cinema and how much do you do in post. But that's interesting that you should be doing most of that in Cinema in this particular case.
Yeah, for this one, there is very few modification I did, except for the background, which is quite nice. I think it adds to the to everything. But the main thing is really this one. You can see this is just the raw render. It's very close from the final look. It's mainly the same thing, you see. The only thing I added was optical glow, yeah, which just added some glow because you always need some glow.
We've had a couple of questions in, Lionel. One is from Bernd and is asking how long you spent on the project.
Well, it's difficult to answer because I spent 1 month on it, but not full time because I had almost 3 weeks of teaching meanwhile. So I worked many nights, many evenings. My friend Mathieu Frimo, who worked the most on the project beside me, spent 6 days on and all, which is not that much, that many. The other Mathieu Walinsky, he spent 2 days, I think, on it. And for me, well, it's difficult to say. I would say if I count already the full day I worked on it, I would say maybe 2 weeks, 10 days away. I think a bit more than that. So yeah, that's not so much considering that we had so many sequences.
No, absolutely. That's amazing that you managed to pull it together in that time as well.
And
Can I jump in and ask a question?
Yes, of course.
So I didn't want to interrupt, but I'm curious about, like, with all of the universe tools that you use, the Red Giant tools, all the cool polish, like, was that part of your plan from the beginning, or did you kind of like get a sense of like the core elements of the like cinema stuff and then kind of like take it into After Effects and fiddle around? Because it looks like well designed, like you planned it that way from the start.
Well, actually, I started as a video editor, so that's my first work. That's how I started. If we go even further back in time, I just wanted to be a director, so I made some film school actually. And because my first work was a video editor, I'm still thinking about shots and edit and so on. So for me, it was very important to, well, everything was going to be in After Effects in the end, and I know the polish you add in the end, the rhythm, the music is what makes the film, the movie whole. That's yes, from the very beginning, I wanted to have something like that. It's also the approach of Mathieu, who was the art director on this clip, who is like me. He comes from a video background and then took interest in 3D rather late, and now is doing mainly 3D. I just wanted to show his website very quickly. We can show his, I guess we add his website. So some work is done. So again, I really want to thank him. You can see there is many styles. Video, 3D, After Effects stuff, animation, and so on.
That's really amazing. I mean, that's an interesting side question as well, because there's another debate about whether you nail a particular style and then you really work into that, and you get known for that. And a lot of artists have had very successful careers doing that. But also there's another argument saying that if you're working for multiple clients, especially in a studio, then there's an advantage to having multiple different styles that you're capable of. So
exactly.
What's your take on that, Lionel?
Well, yeah, that's my case. I don't have any style, actually. I just do what I'm told.
You have style.
And client like that, actually. I remember a story about a friend who is very talented, who was asked for a client to work for him, and he just did his usual stuff, and he has a very strong artistic approach to everything, and he really got his style. And the client was not happy with the work he did, even though it was amazing, because he just did his bit. He did the kind of work he's always doing, and he's doing it very well. I think he's much better than me. And the client was not happy. And that was, I mean, that was funny, because he was hired by that client. The client went to fetch him to do that kind of work, and he wasn't happy because he thought he could adapt to another style. Well, and I don't have this problem, but I have the opposite problem, meaning that I don't have any style, so I just do different stuff every time. I think Mathieu, I don't want to speak for him, but I think Mathieu is a bit the same kind. We just adapt to the client. And well, that fits well the purpose here with this film, because there was some different style to give this the impression of richness, of to have something very different every time, but still with the same artistic direction.
Absolutely, yes. It's an interesting balance to make.
Mm. Yeah, it's yeah, some people like Beeple, he's got his style and is doing Beeple stuff, and now he's known for being Beeple. I mean, you're not
That's true.
going to ask Beeple to do something which is not Beeple. That doesn't make sense. And there is whole side, well, I think most of the other artists are like me. We just adapt our style or our lack of style to what the client need. And actually, I like that to just pick some style and try to do stuff the same way something did before. Well, it's a choice.
Absolutely. And both are valid, by the way.
Yeah, of course. Okay, so maybe shall we jump to this clip? So just to show before. So yeah, I'm not sure I won't have the time to do it in all, but I'll be able to show a few stuff. So again, this is Mathieu's sequence. I did the final look, and so there is many techniques inside. It's not as easy as it looks because we have some morph particles and so on, but it's not that difficult either. Okay, so if I had really 1 hour, I think I would do it, but we'll see how it goes. Okay, so let's jump to Cinema 4D. And this is actually the same sequence I just rehearsed. So this is not the same sequence. This is the one as redid, I did again, just to train. And we're going to start from scratch, and maybe I'll go back from time to time to this one. And this is the actual final sequence, this one. So very, very close. If I hit play. So yeah, it's not real time, as you can guess. Okay, so let's go. Well, before I can just present how it has been done here. Well, it's not very well organized again, I'm sorry. But the idea is just to play, we have two sequences actually. We have the sequence of the light bulb becoming the heart, becoming the sphere, then becoming the sphere while twirling around and so on. And so I did two sequences and then blended them in one, okay? And I did for that, used mainly the morph tag, and there is some caveats with the morph tag, as you will see. Okay, so let's start. I guess I'm going to show the first to start off, just to see how we did this bit, which is quite interesting, I think. And then we'll go backward to create this part here. Okay, so this one is made with particles. So we can do particles inside Cinema 4D. You don't need X particles to do that. This is all basic Cinema 4D, except for Redshift, of course. And you can do some really interesting stuff with Cinema 4D particles. So the idea here, I'm going to start with the standard particle, the emitter. So if I hit play, we have the particles, nothing amazing. And I would like first to emit them in all directions. So in the emitter, I'm going to change the angle horizontal to the maximum. So that makes almost a spherical emitter. As you can see, they're going to be shot everywhere. And that's the basic idea. We want to have fewer particles. well, we want to have many particles, but not very long. So let's shoot them for 25 seconds. And I will put 15 and 15. So that will be almost one burst of particles like that. Okay. And well, I'm going to go straight ahead. So how to make the particle real? You could put an object, any Cinema 4D object. I can do it very quickly. If I put any object and put it as a child, and then I'm going to ask on the particle emitter to use show object. As you can see, now we're shooting cubes, but there is much better to do. I'm going to create a sphere, rather tiny sphere. We're going to put it inside a cloner. And the cloner, if you use the object mode and then use the emitter as the object mode, we're going to shoot particles controlled by Mograph. So that's much nicer because those particles here are actually Mograph objects, meaning we can use a random effector and whatever you want. So first, we need to control our particles. Want to orbit around the object like planets, like satellites. So we need to give them a motion. And that's quite easy if you use here in Simulate a force, which is the attractor force. Okay, so the attractor force is going to attract particles relative to its center. So the center is going to center the world, center of the particles. And this, well, this force is not very well liked because it's kind of difficult to control and it gives not very good result if you use it right away like that. Because if I just shoot, you can see, well, it's not very interesting. And if I increase the strength and so on, it won't work. So yeah, it's going to work actually. So let's put one strong attraction, and now it's going to shoot the particle everywhere. So actually they're going to go here, and then they're going to accelerate and go too fast. You can control that with the speed limit, but there is much better to do is to use the fields, because almost everything in Cinema 4D can be used with fields. And here I'm going to use a spherical field. I'm going to leave it as it is, right on the center. And then you have the intensity of the attraction, okay, based on the spherical field. So we'll have 100% of the attraction right here in the center. That's not what I want. I want the opposite. I want the attraction to happen on the outskirt here of the attractor. And there will be no attraction inside because the particle reach the center, they're going to accelerate and shoot out everywhere. So it's very easy. You just need to invert the spherical field. So we're going to the remapping, and you have a handy button here, which is invert. So now that means there will be no attraction inside this sphere here, and from 0 to 100% there. So that's perfect, because if the particles are going in this area, they will be attracted to the center, then they will just continue the journey, and then they will be attracted back with this one here. So let's try, and that's it. We have a nice random orbiting stuff and so on. So quite easy, you see, just with the spherical field. So what we can do now in the emitter, we can give more speed and some variation in the speed. And I'm trying to find a nice motion. So you have to be careful, because if my speed is going too fast, yeah, I will have some particles. You see here, I'm just at the limit. So maybe I'm going to decrease the speed. Also, I can play here with the speed of the overall attraction, maybe 800. Okay, that will do. Obviously, I'm not going to have the exact same look as the original, but that's close enough. You can see it works pretty well. That's already interesting as a background animation. So we want to add more randomness to that. And we can do that because it's a Mograph cloner, meaning that I can use now any effector. So I'm going to use here the random effector. And my random effector, well, the position is not very interesting, but the scale is. And here, using uniform scale, absolute scale, I can have a random scale from 0 to 1 or more than that. Okay, so maybe something like that, meaning that all the spheres have different size. It's already more interesting. And I could add some more effector, but I think that's okay right now. It's already pretty nice. So now we can try to have the look of the blobs flying out and so on. So for this, we're going to use the volume builder. I'm going to create a new sphere, which will be the center sphere. So maybe let's make it this size, we'll see. I'm going to add the volume builder. Let's decrease the voxel size to 5. I'm going to take the sphere here and ask to be a perfect primitive. So we won't have any facets. And we're going to add now the cloner inside. So they're all part of the same thing. I guess we need to decrease the voxel size, increasing the number of voxels. And now we can add a smooth on top of it. And I'm going to decrease the smoothness, decrease the voxel size again, and you can see we're getting there. We're starting to have the result I'm looking. And now I'm going to mesh that. So add the volume mesher, and we can see we have our stuff. So if we hit play, see that's already cool. A bit bland, I would think, but it's interesting. So there's many things we can do with that. First, in the volume builder, we can add on top of the SDS smooth a modifier that nobody uses, which is very interesting. It's the SDF close and open. So what it's going to do, it's going to create some kind of membrane. So let's try. If I use another iteration, you see it's going to pull the object, you can see it here, and try to close the gap as if it was, you see, that kind of effect we don't have otherwise. Okay, so this effect, you have to be careful with the smooth. They're going to work together. Maybe I'm going to decrease again the size. Yeah, you see, that's more interesting. Huh? And maybe we can use another smooth on top of it. Yes?
Quick question for you, Lionel. Just Jonathan was wondering, when adjusting the speed of the acceleration of the emitted balls, how do you cope with the real-time playback if you're on a slower machine, just to get the sense of that movement?
Well, yeah, that's a problem. What you can do is to cache here with the include. No, it's not there. Sorry. You can cache the particles here, bake particles. Then you should have real time, but usually you have real time with the particles. Here, I'm already not in real time. If we hit play, we can see, yeah, see 5 image per second. So I don't have any other choice here than make a preview. So you're going to, is it in any, yeah, it's animate. You're going to make a preview. It's going to make a render of the viewport. So it's going to be pretty fast, and then you can check how's the speed. It's really a pain in the neck. You have to make many preview to check that your speed is right. You can also, you might use here this feature instead of playing all frames, you're going to ask it to play 25 frames per second, and you untick here all frames. So now it's going to skip frames, but here it's going to, I mean, see, it's going so fast, we don't understand what's going on. And what's even worse, the result is not correct because the particles are dynamic. So it doesn't work. But if you have something almost real time, that could be a way to, well, to be real time.
Got it. And in fact, Ellie just jumped in on the questions panel there and gave exactly that suggestion as well. And maybe also she says lower the polygons of the sphere to the absolute lowest.
Here, if I the problem here, if I decrease the sphere, we're going to have a much faster playback. You can see it's almost double, but we lose some sphere because of the SDF smooth. So it's a delicate balance to find the right setting and so on. Okay, so I would say that it's fine. It's really the difference between tutorials and real world. In tutorials, we're fine. In 5 minutes, in real world, no, we're not. You spend like 2 hours fidgeting on digits and so on to have the perfect look, and you're never happy with it. Yeah. We do rehearse those things. I mean,
yes, we're never happy as artists.
No,
yeah, we just run out of time.
So because I don't have time, I will say that's fine, even though it's not. Okay. So now with the volume measure, we can have much nicer result using the all powerful the jiggle deformer. The one deformer you should add everywhere. That's a quote, I think, from E.G. Eisenfrat, who really loved that deformer. He puts it everywhere he can, and it's right. So the jiggle is going to create secondary motion. I think we can see it here. Yeah, you see when the sphere are going back, they're going to make some ripple. It's not very visible here because of the speed, but it's working. It's doing something. If we increase here the strength, lower the stiffness, it creates a more organic look. Along that, we can also add, because the sphere is too perfect, we can add the second most interesting deformer, which is the displacer. So I'm going to add it, well, before, after, depends. Let's put it before. And the displacer, I'm going to, in that case, this is a dynamic deformer. You need to uncheck it to be sure that what you're going to see is the final result. Be careful with that. So here, my displacer, and we're going to add a noise on top. And yeah, you get the result, but we're going to go to the texture and increase the global scale quite a lot. Something like that. Okay. And we're just going to animate that noise. So what I can do is disable the volume builder just to see how it looks. So here I'm in real time, so that's a good idea to check what's going on. But as soon as I activate those two, it's going to be, well, not that fast. But I think, yeah, it's a nice motion, it's organic. I would say I'm happy with it. So let's activate back. You can check very quickly, and we have this animation, which is interesting, I think. All right, yeah, that will do. Okay, from there, because yeah, it's not real time, and because it's a complex hierarchy, we're going to use that inside other stuff and so on. It's always a good idea to bake everything you do, because we have dynamic object. I mean, we have the emitter controlling the cloner, which is in fact controlled by the effector, then influenced by the attractor, and then you have the volume measure, and then you have the displacer and the jiggle, the whole chain of hierarchy, which make it very easy to break and prevent you from just going in the time like that. You see, if I just jump in time, the result is not correct. So I'm going to do something I'm going to do a lot. I'm going to bake the result. And we have the Alembic file format, which is just wonderful for that. So I'm going to right click here on the volume measure, and we're going to bake as Alembic. So just before I want to save the project, and let's call it webinar webinar sphere. Okay, so now I've done that. If I take my volume measure, right click, I'm going to bake as Alembic. It's going to run the animation quite fast, and it's going to give me an object I can just play with, which is going to be baked, so there will be no modification possible on it, except adding some deformer and so on, but it's going to be fast, and I will be able to turn off everything here. And you can see it's pretty fast, and maybe we will have some real time on it. Is there any question? That's a good opportunity.
Yes, two questions are right on this topic actually. The first one is the inevitable, what are your specs, Lionel? And we can all take a shot for that question. And also, what if you're an interesting one from Jonathan, actually, if you're trying to prove playback, what is the best thing to concentrate on? Is it the CPU or is it the GPU? Do you concentrate on the graphics card or the processor? I guess it's an it depends answer, but what would be your take on that, Lionel?
Well, I have a good computer, but it's not a wonderful computer, but it's pretty good. It's pretty good. It's AMD. It's 12 cores, so it's pretty fast. And I have RTX 2080 and GTX 1080. So it's good stuff. It's a good computer, but it's not amazing. I have another computer which is quite more powerful, but you can see you can work easily on this one. For viewport performance, you almost, well, no, the GPU is important, but the CPU is also important. And I'm afraid for that case, I know that almost no computer in the world would be able to play it real time. It's just too heavy. Some limitation inside C4D also, because there's so many stuff going on at the same time. So yeah, you should aim for a well-balanced computer. Nowadays, you really need to have good CPU, of course, and also a good GPU, because there is more and more stuff relying on the GPU. So they are both important. But for the viewport, I would say mainly the CPU and a bit the GPU. It's difficult to answer already because it depends on what you're doing inside Cinema 4D.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a balance for sure.
Yeah, as always for everything. Okay,
sorry,
so
Jonathan. It's an it depends answer as well.
Yeah. Okay, so we do have our volume measure. So let's see if it's real time. Yeah, it's not real time. It's pretty good. Huh? So this is our result. I have a good idea of what's going on. I would say it's too fast, but let's call it done. Oh, now I'm real time. You can see here. That's interesting. Okay, so that's the actual speed. I'm impressed you can play that. So that's cool. That's cool. I would say the main sphere is a bit too big compared to this one, but that's the idea. Okay, so moving on. So that's one part of the whole sphere, and let's call that bubbling sphere. I'm going to organize a bit the scene also. Let's create a new layer. I'm going to pull all that inside the layer. I have deactivated everything. So yeah, don't think that if you hide an object, just because it's hidden, it's going to disappear. Actually, the computer is still working on it. This is disabled. So now we have some good feedback. The computer is snappy again. I have seen many times people hiding the stuff like that here, with the visibility button, and that's not going to help because the object is still computed. Okay, here it's really disabled. It's going to be much faster. Okay, so I'm going to also hide because it's a bit cluttering the whole stuff. About Alembic, what's great with Alembic, I was saying about the speed. It was well, it's not going to work on this one because it's a moving mesh, but you have here control for the speed and the offset of everything. So it depends on what kind of geometry you have here. In that case, because we have a lot of polygons, it's not going to work if I decrease the speed. See, it just doesn't care. And that's normal. That's because we have, well, the count of polygon is moving from each frame. Okay, that's an exception. But if you're going to use keyframe animation, it's going to be able to play with a different speed. That's very interesting. But what I can do is change the offset, meaning that it's going to play before or after. Oh yeah, I forgot to take the whole thing. And here you can see I'm offsetting. I'm still at time 0, so I'm going to make it happen or before. I'm wondering then if I didn't make the mistake here. Yeah, so we have the speed. As you can see, it's choppy. There is no interpolation, but it can work if you just lower a bit like that. 80%, I don't think we can see really the difference. So that's what's pretty cool with Alembic, this ability to play with time, and it's robust now. It means it's not going to break and so on. It's very sturdy. And actually, it's saved, as you can see here, in a folder named Alembic that has been created for us by Cinema 4D. Okay, so moving on. Now we have that. I can disable it again. And we can create the new stuff, which is the morphing of the different shape. And for this, because you're going to morph stuff together, you really need to be aware that your object need to have the same polygon count. Okay, so if you have a sphere with 100 faces, it's going to morph into another object, which is 100 faces. And also the topology of the object must stay the same. So that's the caveats of the morphing tag, meaning that we're going to create a sphere and we're going to deform this sphere to take the shape of the object we want. And that's quite a bit of work because it's not very easy to get any shape you want from one basic shape like that. So one way to do it would be to use the sculpting tool, but I'm not going to do that. We're going to use the deformer, and it's going to work quite well. So I'm going to take 80 segments because that's easier to work with. Also, I'm going to show that again to have roughly the same size. Okay, so 60 centimeter. And now our sphere, we're going to create 3 shapes with it. So if we take a look here, we have the light bulb. Then it's going to be the heart shape. Then it's going to morph to a sphere and transform to this one. There will be a trick here, how to morph from the sphere to our bubbling sphere. Okay. So let's try first with the heart shape because there is a nice trick to do it very quickly. So I'm going to create here and we're going to use a deformer. So we're going to do everything with the deformer here. That's one of the strengths of Cinema 4D. We have a lot of deformers. They're all interesting. And I'm going to use the formula deformer. So this one I learned it from Mathieu. He's the one who, when I got the file, he gave me the final file before I did the rendering. I was curious how he did that, and I was very surprised he used a formula for that. I mean, that seems weird, but there is a trick. If you take your shape and then on the Y radial, I think we will see, and then we're going to increase a lot the size like that. And we're going there and we're going to increase the size here. What do you see? A heart. Okay. And because we have this formula here, which is very intimidating, but it's quite easy actually. It's just some scene with the pi and so on with the time as a factor. So if we just scrub the time, we can see our shape. And so at some point, I think we have a nice shape like that. I can change the size, try to work here, and you can see we have it. I mean, it's really funny to have with some mathematical formula the shape so easily. So I'm trying to get it like that. I think it's fine. And now it's frame 23. Okay, so that will require some math, but here I don't think you can see it on the webinar. I'm sorry, but this is the t meaning time. So it's the time in seconds. So if here it's 23 frames. So I'd guess it's I don't know actually. It's 0.8, 0.9 or something like that. So I'm going to change here. No. So let's try 85, almost 87. Okay, close enough, I would say. And now it's fixed in time. So I just replaced the variable t, which is the time of the scene, by a number to get the shape I want. And here it is. We have our our rough shape. So now I'm going to hide this, and we're going to change. I'm going to add a taper on top of that after the formula, and we're going to change the size like that. And no, actually, I think we're fine like that. And maybe I'm going to add on top of that FFD, which is also a very powerful tool because it's going to freeform deformer. That's the initial. And here I'm going to change to point mode. We're going to use rectangle selection. And we can change the size of the heart. So here I have a reference in front of me so that I can more easily change the shape. And yeah, maybe let's take those two. It's always difficult to have the right shape for something like that because it's so familiar. Let's see, NA to have well, it's almost there. I would think. And now if I okay, that again, I would say it's close enough. You get the idea. Always difficult to to know when to stop.
Would you use FFD to make the heart beat? Jonathan is asking.
Oh yeah, we could. Actually, the FFD, maybe not. For this, I would say I would use maybe the Spherify. Yeah, we can try it very quickly. Spherify, which is one of my favorite deformer too. So if I put a Spherify, and I'm going to limit it with the spherical field. And it's too much of the if we go here to the strength, well, we would have the beating heart like that. And now the spherical fill, I need to put it more in front, maybe something like that. And maybe more like this. Well, you get the idea. And then, well, maybe from the angle of view that could work. And now this verified, I would just, yeah, it's a bit creepy, but that's an idea. That's an idea. It's creepy actually. It's interesting. Okay. So yeah, I would do that. I'm sure there might be some other way. Okay, so let's call it done for our heart. I'm still not very happy with this one, but it's okay. Otherwise, we won't have time. Huh? So this is our sphere, and we're done with it. So again, I'm not going to bake it, but I'm going to make it an editable object, so we will be able to use it. So right-click, and we're going to current state to object. So it's going to make our sphere. I'm going to hide this one. And here, this will be the heart. And from there, I could very well just edit the points, as long as I don't add new points. We will see why later. Okay, so that's our heart. Now I'm going to duplicate the sphere. I'm going to get rid of all that. And now we're going to work on the second object, will be the light bulb. So I have a light bulb just in front of me. And that's funny because this is the most difficult one, I think, to create the shape. So here with our light bulb, we can try to use here the taper. And we're going to inverse the taper. And if I increase the strength and then the curvature like that, okay. Let's hide also the arrow grid, which is useless there. And then I think we can add the squash and stretch. Let's put it just after. So the order of the deformer is important. Now, if I change my factor like this, okay, I think we get the idea. Now it's just a matter of expanding this bit here. So because we have the sphere like that, let me show you the reference I'm using here on my other screen. So something like that. Okay, actually, I don't want to have the screw here, the bottom, which will be done with something else. So here I can try to add another taper. And yes, again, this one, fit to parent. I'm going to decrease it like that, and the strength. Well, no, I didn't do that. We used instead a FFD. FFD on top of that. Actually, the FFD, you could do any deformer with it because you just set the number of points you want to use. And with that, you can bend, you can taper, you can do whatever you want. It's pretty easy. So let's add one more grid like that. And I think we're going to decrease here. Maybe we can add another one too. Okay, let's go to point mode. I'm going to select all this. And here, well, almost, I guess.
LED bulb.
Okay. I'm sorry?
It's an LED bulb. Like LED bulbs are that shape, so you could call it an LED bulb if you wanted.
Yeah. Well, it's difficult to have the right shape. I'd say it's okay. You get the drift. You just need to change your point and so on. Maybe I could do it with other modifier and so on. So let's call it done again. And yeah, for the the screw here, there was a nice animation just using here a shape which is an helix. And let's put it down. Now, just going to hide the deformer because that's just too confusing. And here the end angle, let's times 3. Well, maybe times 2.5. Oops, 2.5. Okay, again, I need to know how to end. Yeah, that will be, actually, I'm not very happy with the shape, but let's say it's, I think almost everyone will recognize the light bulb. So here it is. We have our sphere, so I'm going to make it editable again. So current state to object. It's going to bake if you want the object into what you want. And this one, so will be light bulb. And we're going to hide our original here. I'm going to organize again. So we have our heart, our light bulb, and I'm going to copy again this one. And this will be our final sphere. So now we have our heart, light bulb, sphere. I'm going to hide this one. And how we're going to morph all of them together. So it's going to work again because we have the same number of segments everywhere. Okay, if we had just one polygon, 2 more or 2 less, it wouldn't work. You really need to have the same count or the same topology, meaning the order of the point of the polygon must be the same. That's why we started from the very same object every time. That's very important. Okay, so let's make it editable. Hitting C, and let's go to object mode. And then I'm going to make again another copy here. And this will be our final object. That's a very bad naming convention. Never call anything final. That's a bad idea, but let's do it anyway. Okay, now we're going to add, now the tricky part, we're going to add here in the rigging tags, we're going to use our Pose Morph. And our Pose Morph is going to work on points, okay? The Pose Morph is amazing modifier. I mean, you can do so much with it. It's incredible. We could spend hours on that. So, but we just use it very roughly for the points. And then we have here our pose. So the base pose, the pose number 1. The pose number 1 will be here. I need to remember, yeah, I need to just take a look here very quickly on my final object here. What was the order? It's, oh no, it's not the one. Yes, that's the one. Okay, so it's the heart, then the sphere. So here, our base pose will be the heart. So I'm going to here in the advanced tab to take this target. I'm going to hide those also because it's just confusing. So you see our final object just change to the heart shape. And now if I change, this is how it works. Okay, so let's call it heart. I'm going to add another pose. And this one will be the bulb. It's going to be the sphere. Okay, yes, I remember now. I was wrong for something. Sorry about that. I need to delete this object. I need to start from the light bulb because this is the one we're going to see first. So I'm going to copy the light bulb, make it editable. Then I'm going to add the Pose Morph in points mode. Then in the target, so this is our first state, okay? Then it's going to transform into the heart. Okay, here we are. And here I'm going to call it heart. I'm going to add another pose, and this one is going to be the sphere. Okay, let's call it sphere. Then if I change to animate, we have a mix of the two shape. So if I put it to 0, so this is our original shape, then it's going to change to the heart, and then to the sphere if I also decrease this one. So it's just a matter of mixing those sliders together to have the result I want. So let's decrease the sphere to 0. And to make the transition more interesting, we're going to use another yet deformer, which is the morph. Okay, now our morph is going to control this tag. And especially it's going to be interesting because you can use fields. So here in the fields, I can use a linear field. And as you can see, my linear field is going to make this more interesting transition. Let's decrease the size. Let's put it right there. All right. And now we want to have the transition about there. Okay, so our linear field must be inversed. Okay, because we start from this one and then we go there. Okay, so we have our light bulb transforming to the heart. So at 25, I guess, I'm going to add the keyframes. And to the 50 frame, we have a transition. So here it is. And then here, I guess at maybe frame 65, we're going back to the morph here. And we can transition again to the sphere like that. But then we need to decrease the heart. So I'm going to create one keyframe for each. Let's advance to 90 maybe, and make the transition. So now we have this transition shaping to this one. And that's it. Maybe we could change a bit the pacing. And yeah, yes, okay, so we won't be able to see the rendering because it takes some time also, but I think the most interesting here is the animation anyway. So now to mix everything together, if we go back to our bubbling sphere here, I'm going to make it editable. You can see they almost are one in front to the other. So I have that happening, and then here. So what I'm going to do is when we have our transition here, I want to just decrease the size, make it disappear. So I'm going to add some scale. Let's go here. Let's put it to 0. Okay, so as it's going to transform to the heart, it's going to decrease in size. And at the same time, we're going to have our bubbling sphere appear. So here I'm going to take those two. Let's offset the animation because I want it to happen, start to happen about here. Okay. And now we're going to just do the reverse, meaning that I'm going to decrease the size to 0, keyframe, and we're going to go there and make it to 1 again. So we have a transition from one to the other. If we go back here, from there to there to there. Okay, it was a bit fast, but that's the idea. And to make it more interesting, because here we don't have, you can see it's two different shapes. We can use the very same trick we used earlier. I'm going to use a volume builder, which is going to mix our bubbling sphere and our light bulb. Again, let's decrease the size to maybe 4. Let's use SDS smooth. Let's use this time just a median. And let's add a volume measure. And now the circle is complete and we have our stuff with everything. So if we go back, we have our animation. Then it's going to transform here. And then we have the transition between the two, which is perfect. You can see it's already going to blend the two together. Just maybe create the scale earlier. All right, so that's it. There's 2 more things to do just before. Yeah, very quickly. Here inside my volume builder, when we have our morphing, again, it's always interesting to add the jiggle deformer. Put jiggle deformer everywhere because it's great. And the jiggle deformer, so I have disabled the thing so we can see. See, we have this animation. So obviously our jiggle deformer is too strong. I guess we need to increase the stiffness, maybe decrease the structural. Yeah, that's better. You can see here, we have our like a bit of bouncing inside here. And then we go back to this one.
The lovely subtle way of improving that elegance of that morph.
Yeah, it's always, it's never ending actually.
Sven was asking, can you use a Pose Morph on an FFD deformer?
Well, the FFD is using points, but it's a deformer, so I don't think so, because it's a deformer, so it's happening at the same time. You will have a conflict of order of priority, I think. That's a good question. I don't think so, but I should try. Maybe.
That's a great question, Sven. Thank you. And just whilst we're asking, Andreas was also wondering about elaborating a bit more about how the Pose Morph tag interacts with the Morph modifier.
Well, actually, it's those two are the same. So when you add the Pose Morph, actually the deformer, so the Morph deformer need the Pose Morph. Without the tag, it's not going to work. And then if you have your Pose Morph tag, and then your Morph deformer, the Morph deformer is going to control the Morph tag. Okay, you can see we have the same keyframe here because this one is controlling the other. And why we do that? Because we can just tick it on and off, and especially the most interesting stuff is you can add a field. So whatever field you want, we just expand the possibility of everything. Maybe one very, very, very quick last thing about the Helix, because I didn't animate it. There's a problem if you animate the Helix, if you use the angle and so on, it's going to move. You can see it's, well, it's interesting, but maybe we don't want this animation, or we want to have it traced. So what you can do is use the mouse spline, which is so powerful. We're going to use the spline mode. And then in the spline section, we're going to drag this one. I'm going to hide the original spline. So the mouse spline is now using the original spline, but now I can grow like that.
Nice.
So that's it. It's very simple, but something you can't do with, you can do that with any spline you want. So you just need to add some keyframe here. In the other way, as I would think, it's from start to 0. kickstart everything. Well, actually, oh yes, because that's the geometry only playback. And also, you didn't need to stop. So one thing I forgot in my layer, let's make it appear. It's here the tracer. We don't have the nice, which is very important inside here. Those.
Okay.
So this is the tracer. This one is very quick. I'm just going to take the cloner, which is doing all the work here. Let's activate everything back. And our cloner, we're going to use the tracer, and that's it. So if I hide everything now, our tracer, and actually I don't need the volume measure, those two, neither. So the tracer is going to trace the object. Let's put it from start, 10 frames. And you can see we have the animation. So it's from the end, yeah. Orbiting animation. So this one would need to be baked as Alembic too, and then offsetted the same way I did with our light bulb.
Fantastic.
Well, that's it. I could go on for because we haven't made to rendering. I was sure about that, but maybe they could do we could do that on another webinar. And
yes, absolutely. That was one of the plans. There's so much rich content that you put into the whole sequence that we can investigate, and we plan to do that as well. Absolutely. And there's been a lot of comments about your techniques here. What a great way of using them together.
Well, thank you again. Thanks to Mathieu who find all those techniques. I'm just explaining actually here. For the rendering, I did all the rendering, okay, but everything you've seen here, it's Mathieu.
Fantastic work. We have one quick last question, if you wouldn't mind just jumping back to After Effects. Question about the background.
Oh yes.
And how did you make that texturing background? You know, the blue background with the slight vignette on it.
Yeah, well, that's maybe the easiest bit on the whole stuff. Where is it? It's here. It's just the uni gradient ramp. So it's gradient ramp. You could very well use the one from After Effects, but the one from Universe is more interesting. And the texturized motion on top of it. So it's just a plugin which is going to play animation based on texture. So this is the basic texture, the concrete. And I just tweaked a few stuff here, the texture opacity, the blend mode and so on. I think I activated the displace. Yes, I did. Very slightly. Yeah, only on the soften here. So it's a very simple plugin, but very nice to add some animated background. And it's quite recent. I think it was just last year it was released, this one.
Absolutely. It builds off Universe Texturize, but this version also gives the ability to be able to animate, as you say. So those boiling backgrounds or those almost like paper, slightly textured backgrounds that can give energy to the foreground. That's a really quick way of doing it.
It's very simple. If I just hit play, you can see it's very simple but very effective.
Very nice. And thanks for this, Lionel, and thank you everyone for allowing us to overrun slightly. But sometimes when you've got really interesting content, you don't want to just like clamp it down. So we really appreciate the extra time that you've hung on for us. Thank you. And thanks for the nice comments as well. And thank you, Susie and Drake and Jonathan, Andreas and Sean and Anders and Sven and Jonathan again for those kind comments and also talking so nicely about the interesting way of using these components together. Really great stuff, Lionel. Can I grab the screen from you just to close out? I wanted to point everyone towards Motion Café actually. So let's show my window here. Here we go. There we are. So one of the other reasons why we were so delighted that Lionel was going to be working with us is not only that he is a Maxon and Cinema 4D and Redshift Master Trainer, but he's also an amazing artist, and you've done many amazing motion graphic sequences over the years. So it's a really interesting thing to have both of those talents in one go, not only to be able to come up with creative stuff like this, but then to be able to explain it as well. It's fantastic.
Thank you.
So we appreciate being just hanging on your coattails of excellence, basically.
Yeah, you're welcome.
And this is the site that Lionel mentioned earlier on. This is Motion Café, and with additionally some amazing work and input on here. So this is well worth exploring as well. And we'll ask you, Lionel, which links you'd like to share more. We'll put those into the YouTube description as well, something that you'd like us to put in, because Lionel's created, as well as creating lots of really amazing work, he's created many fantastic training tutorials about how to delve in and get into this detail. Those small little technical things that he's been showing us that make all the difference. So we can share some of those too. And it wouldn't be a session if I didn't say, hey, check out the next sessions. So just as a reminder, we've got VFX and Chill coming up tomorrow. We've got more of our demystifying series about investigating holiday designs. Ellie will be back on that one. And also we've got a whole new series on Cinema 4D Lite starting off in January, as well as more VFX and Chill, and lots more exciting things that we've got planned, which we'll be revealing more in the new year. Fantastic. Thank you so much. Oh, there's a whole host of thank you, lovely comments coming in. I really appreciate that. Thank you. And also the suggestions and the questions that you've been asking through the session. I mean, that's the beauty of doing these live sessions. I know we provide them as a recording, but if we're able to react to some of your questions as we go through, that makes it even better. And so thank you for that. And if you've got any other questions, please contact us, training@maxon.net. That comes through to all of us. And then we can get back to you, whether it's something for a future webinar or whether it's something that we need to add into one that's coming up. So thank you again. We appreciate all the time that you spent with us so far this year. Please come on Monday. We might wear our Christmas jumpers for that one, because it's getting close. Cool. All right. Thanks again. See you on the next one.
Bye-bye.
Everyone.
Bye-bye.
See you.